Hi! So this is a video about installing an Netatmo Presence camera and hooking it up to IFT. So the reason I'm doing this video is that I unfortunately had a break-in into my car parked in my garage like a week ago. And even though I actually do have a camera in my garage, it didn't cover all the angles. So I need an additional camera to cover those angles that were not covered by my original camera. And I started googling existing solutions and wound up choosing between the Netatmo Presence camera, which I again bought in the end, and the Nest outdoor cam. So in many ways the Nest solution actually suited me better, since the Netatmo camera kind of builds upon the idea that you have an existing light or floodlight or something in your garage that you then replace with this one, so that you use the wiring of that existing light. And I don't have an existing light in my garage that I can use for that, so I'm going to need to do something to get that circumvented, because the wiring is what I'm really going to need to solve to get this project working. But so why I didn't end up choosing the Nest solution is that it requires you to pay a monthly fee for storing and having access to your video files, and I really don't want to do that because that's going to run up costs in the end. So I have my own server, so I would prefer just storing it on that instead. This video is in no way sponsored by anyone. I bought this camera myself, so this is just because I couldn't find anything on the web about doing a Presence installation without actually having the existing light to replace. So this hopefully can help others. And also, again, I couldn't find anything on the Presence camera and the IFT integration. So I hope I can show you that also. But I'm just going to show you the garage where I'm planning to install it, to give you guys an idea of why this is not an uncommon installation. But again, I'm kind of baffled that Netatmo haven't gone with a solution where it's not built upon replacing an existing light, but has its own power solution. But we're going to go to the garage and let's have a look at the setup.
Right, so here you see my garage and the existing IP camera that I have that didn't unfortunately manage to film the burglars because it's filming towards the main door. So my plan is to put the camera on the house filming towards the driveway. So I won't have anyone coming into my driveway without them being detected. So my options here are to put them in either of these corners or basically just besides the main door. I also have to figure out whether or not I'm putting the camera on the wall and running wires across the wall, or I'm putting it in the ceiling, which might give me the better angle because my ceiling is not that high. So if I'm putting it on the wall, I probably won't get the best angle, but I'll have to figure that out.
Okay, so let's just have a look what's actually inside the box before we start doing the actual installation. And so you will find the camera, the main thing. That's pretty much it. So we have that, and so what I can show you here, so we have the camera here. And you see here we have sort of a base plate that the camera, that's supposed to go into my wall. And this is where the problem comes in, because as you can see, this is built on the idea that you actually get the wiring coming directly from the wall. There's no way of running the wire without altering this. It seems plastic. So one solution could be that I drilled a hole or something like that into this to have the wiring coming from above or below. But I'm probably not gonna have it run directly from the wall, because that would mean probably hiring an electrician to run a wire into the wall, and that's both timely and costly. So I'm probably going to look into doing some sort of solution where I can alter this to have the wiring come inside somewhere. But yeah, so that's in the box. Then there is, this is probably, yeah, this is mounting plates and screws and stuff like that. And there is a QR code and a manual. There we go. And advertising pamphlet for the Netamo stuff. So that's pretty much what's in the box. Not a lot, but again, this is supposedly, if you have an existing floodlight, this is an easy installation. So mine is again a little bit more tricky. So my thoughts are that I'm gonna, instead of just having the guessing where it goes and installing it into my wall, since I have the flexibility that I'm just not replacing it on an existing light, I'm thinking I'm gonna do just a temporary installation where I'm gonna do a wiring to this to just a temporary outlet, so I can just fool around with putting it different places to see how that covers the garage best before I actually just start making holes into my wall. So I think I'm gonna start by just getting this hooked up to a temporary power solution to be able to fool around with it in the garage. So let's get cracking. Okay. So we're ready for the next step. So this is again to do the sort of temporary installation to just get an idea of where I want to, in the end actually put the camera and make sure that everything's working. So what I've done is I've just made a power cord with a standard male power connector, and I'm then going to connect this to the wiring here. So note that there's a color coding, so you have a blue and a brown and a green yellow, which is the ground. I don't have ground on this, so bear with me, but I'm just quickly going to connect this up so that we can actually start testing the camera. So let's get it going. That should be it. So this should allow us to power this unit up and try different installation points in the garage to see that how that works out. Right, so what I've done now is that I've hooked up the power connection, which you can see now turns on the floodlight of the Netatmo. I've then taken my iPad and downloaded the Netatmo app, and I'm actually ready now to do the configuration. So again, since I'm not hooking this up to an existing outlet, I have the freedom to do this part in here and not actually having to do that as the last step as the original installation process would recommend. So I'm just gonna fiddle around with the camera and make sure that everything works before I actually start going outside and trying to find the best spot for the installation. So I'm just quickly going to show you the setup process. So we're going to switch around. Right. So I've created an account, and I'm just quickly step through the enabling of the different kind of notifications and enabling also that the app can use my location. The reason that it needs this is I think it helps out, whether or not it sends notification if it thinks that you are at home or something like that. So so we're in this, gone as far to the step where it says that you need to be, the camera needs to be plugged in, and it is. So we're gonna just hit next here. So now it's searching for the camera. And it says the camera needs to be close, and I can assure you that it is. So this takes a while. So the video is sort of showing that the floodlight should be blinking, which is not. It's lighting constantly as it did when I plugged it in, it says that I can scan a QR code, but right now there's the app is sort of is locked, so there's no way if I can do that yet. Let's see if it actually just finds it on its own, or I need to do something here. So my Wi-Fi is of course protected, so I don't know if it's doing this by letting the camera expose its own Wi-Fi spot, or how it's how it's supposed to hook up just as of now. Right, so as you can see in the app, still nothing happened. So I looked in the box and I found this QR code, and it instructs me to hold this card like 50 centimeters from the camera, and that should get the camera started blinking. So the reason I'm holding part of my hand across the card is there's a unique code on it that I don't want to show to the internet here. So I'm just going to try to hold this card in front of the camera, and let's see what that does. It should start blinking. Nothing yet. Hi again. So, why am I wearing a blue shirt all of a sudden? Well, I had a defective camera. So, as you could see, just in your world seconds ago, in my world 12 days ago, the camera wouldn't connect to the app. So I contacted Netatmo's support, which can only be done by email, which is something that is fine if it were 2007, but this is 2017. So it took 4 days and 4 emails, because Netatmo replies usually within 24 to 30 hours, which is again is slow as hell. But so you can only get support via email. Absolutely no help found on their website. The only few troubleshooting items they have for this camera is sort of if you are a numbskull and short circuit your breakers or something like that. There is no any guidance about the state that my camera went into that indicated that it was defective. So again, just to help you guys out, so what happened was that the camera turned on but did not start blinking when I hold the QR code in front of it, and that indicates that the camera is defective and needs to be replaced. Again, you cannot find that anywhere in the manual or on the website. You have to find out by sending 4 emails to Netatmo. So yeah, Netatmo, you really need to step up. And 12 days, because again, when Netatmo confirmed that the camera was defective, the shop that I bought this from, I gave it back to them and hoped that I could get a new one fast. I couldn't. They lost the camera and were almost 10 days about replacing it with a new one. But so a lot of mistakes in a row, and here we are. So what we are going to do now, so I've unboxed the camera once again. I've just connected it to a temporary power solution, so I can just again test the camera indoors before actually drilling holes in my walls and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again try to power this on. Hopefully I'll be more successful this time with a non-defective unit. Let's see. And let's get trying. Right. So now we've jumped into the app that you download through the App Store. I've just quickly logged in with my account, which you need to have in order to do this. So I'm now selecting that it's a Presence camera. It just says that the camera needs to be plugged in. Yes, we've already acknowledged that. So it's now searching for the camera. And again, we might need to hold the QR code in front of the camera. The QR code is supposedly unique for each Okay, now something's happening here for each camera, and sort of I'm guessing it tells it to go into sort of a state that allows it to hook up to a different network or whatever. But again, we may not need it. Okay, so now it's actually asking if which network to hook up to, and it's showing the correct one. Right. So I've just quickly changed the name here of the unit. I'm gonna click next. So now we're supposedly hooking up to my existing Wi-Fi spot, which makes sense. Let's see if that works. Fingers crossed again. Okay. So now I think the camera is now hooked up to my network, and this may be the part where the QR code again comes into play. Let's see. Okay. This looks way better than the last time. Let's see what comes now. It goes into some configuration mode. Okay, and it's now displaying. Okay, I'm just gonna need to type in the name and yeah, yada yada. So I'm just quickly gonna skip that part, not to bother you guys. Just a sec. So now we've just typed in the names for the camera and the placement, and it's giving some information about alert zones. This is some sort of guide. Yeah. It's just explaining the camera functions. And okay, so now again, this is my hand should be showing up somewhere here. All right. Oh, okay. So it's actually this is So this is not. Okay, this is a live feed from just before. Yeah. Okay. So it's working. Okay, we need to stop this now to get a feedback here. So okay, it seems that we are good to go. So I'm just quickly gonna see the settings here and try to explain it to you afterwards. Just a sec.
Right. So here you can see the installation point that I ended up using in the ceiling and actually upside down, which the software supports. This gives me the better angle, which makes it easier to set up alert zones that I'll show you just in a minute. So the wiring is done through the ceiling, which also again made it easier for me not to alter the plastic case.
So okay, so let's have a look at the app and how you use it in the everyday life. So this is so you get the overview screen here where you can hit the play button if you want to look at the live feed from the camera. Again, note that there's usually a delay somewhere around 20 to 40 seconds. But again, that's not too bad. But the camera quality is something that I'm fairly impressed with. You might note that my camera is slightly tilted. This is something that's partially caused by the camera is fairly tricky to install, because what I did, I powered it on by a different power source and then tried to mount it during that. But the camera for some reason has, you would think, some sort of gyro or something like that in it. So if it detects so if you just if you move the camera just ever so slightly, which is hard not to do when you're holding it over your head, which would be needed in my instance, it doesn't record. So it's only when it's sitting very still that it again resumes recording. So this is this is why it's actually kind of tricky to finding sort of the perfect spot for your camera, because you can't just, you know, like I plan to do, you know, power it on by different source, you know, turn on the live feed, and then, you know, start moving the camera around to see where the best angle is, because it won't record and show you while you're doing this. You need to hold it very still before the camera actually then records and can show you a live feed. So that makes it fairly tricky. You can see here at the right side, you have the motions that have been detected throughout the day. So one thing, this is a very good example of just how good this camera is if you look at this instance here. So this looks like a person walked into my garage, but in reality, if we look at the recording here, he didn't actually move into my garage, because my alert zone is set just across the stones here. But the reason that he's being recorded is you can see his reflection in the side window of the car is actually recognized as a person. You know, that's just how accurate this camera is. Of course, this is slightly annoying, but you know, it's hard to really fix, because you know it would seem, you know, that there could be a person in the car. So to distinguish between a reflection and the actual person, you know, that I get that why that's pretty hard. But you know, we can just turn on the recording, and you can see it's fairly quickly to show you the recordings. And again, they are stored locally on the camera, and then in my case also uploaded to an FTP server. Now, you know, if someone should break the cameras, try to steal it, you know, once they realize, you know, they've been recorded and they have been up to no good. So you can configure, you know, here is the option to suspend monitoring. You can see the alert zones here. So I've actually set up 2 zones. In my case, that's because you know, in this area where some of my car is covering it goes my lawn, and if I move this box, you can only do square boxes. You can't do not straight lines, because I would actually, you know, I would like this alert zone to be just, you know, a triangle here, because if I'm making it a square, the problem is my lawnmower is actually then recognized as an animal, and that creates recordings that is kind of annoying for me. So this is why I've set up my zone like this. It covers people coming into my garage, but you know, people just moving around the street here in cars, you know, that type of motion is not recorded or giving alerts, which works out great. You can have up to I think it's 4 or 5 zones, but they at once. But again, they need to be square boxes, and they can be. I can just show you an example. If I try to create a new one, you can see this is the smallest that an alert zone can be. So you can see here, if I add that, then all of a sudden it covers my lawn, which then, you know, creates a problem for me, because then I get these recordings that I don't want. So that's why in my case I need to do this like that. This is something that you can fiddle with, but it gives you the basic idea here of what's floodlight, you know, is set to auto. That floodlight is actually it's very powerful. When you come in at night, you know, it's extremely bright. So you get it works great, you know, both that it illuminates the area, but it also, you know, I would say acts as a deterrent to people, you know, that you know, this house is very monitored. So these are the recording settings that you can define. So again, in my instance, you know, you can see here that I've set to, when people are recognized, you know, record and notify me. If cars come by, only record it, don't notify me. If animals are in the screen, just ignore them, don't record, don't notify me. Other motions, you know, where it can't really define you what it is, are recorded but not notified. And here you can see this is not where all, you know, these actions are always recorded, no matter the time zone. But here I can set, you know, I don't want to get notifications on my smartwatch, you know, at 4 a.m. At 4 in the night, you know, if someone, you know, is walking a dog and comes into my alert zone or something like that. So this is not, you know, where things are not recorded. It's only when you are notified on your smartwatch or a tablet or whatever you may use. That's pretty much it. There's another section here where you can define the more general stuff, like yeah, you can set up a new camera, you can define settings for you. Yeah, you know, it's just stuff. Yeah, where do you want the storage? Do you want to use Dropbox? Do you want to use FTP like in my area? You know, and this is just straightforward. So time for conclusion. I can highly recommend this camera. I've used it now for a couple of months, and you know, I'm very pleased with it. A good indicator is that my wife actually okayed and suggested all more or less herself that we bought 2 additional cameras to cover more angles of our house. I know that's not that's not common for her to actually love some of the gadgets that I bring into this household. It's sometimes the other way around. But you know, yeah, a great camera, and I think, you know, one of the reasons that she's very happy with this is it's very easy to use in real life. You know, the notifications you get on your phone, where you can just jump directly into the live recording. Although, you know, a slight delay of something like 20 to 40 seconds with the live stream, but it works very well. And again, in my case, with having an Apple Watch. Where I also get, you know, non-live video footage. I get a still image of what's going on, but that works extremely well, and I'm usually able to identify, you know, if it's people I know, that even though it's a small form factor, I can actually usually identify, you know, who's coming if it's someone I know. The part of the camera being able to distinguish between, you know, again, these 3 types: people, animals, and cars, that actually makes a lot of sense, because I have existing IP cameras and covering, for instance, the sides of my house, where one of the cameras also is covering partially some bushes, and you know, once the wind blows, which it does a lot in Denmark, the camera, you know, more or less goes nuts and you know, think this is a person coming, so it creates a lot of recordings which really don't have any people on it. And if you set the triggers, you know, lower or higher, you know, whatever you want to call it, you know, it doesn't record when a person walks by. So it's sort of either you get a lot of false positives, or you don't get anything. Whereas with this camera, it being able to just, you know, the trees and stuff like that can move around, you know, without it recording anything, because again, it's only when one of these 3 factors come into play, and again, the software actually allows me to distinguish that animals, you know, I don't want to get notified, and I don't want to record it. Cars, so I don't want to get notified, but I would like a recording of it if it comes into their alert zone. And with people, you know, I both want it to be recorded, and I want to be notified on my phone and watch once that happens. And that works very well. I must say that it's extremely good quality, and there's sound also on the recordings. Sometimes I would actually have liked to have a microphone, a speaker in the camera, so I could talk back. For instance, if a delivery boy is coming with a package, and instead of him, you know, just knocking on the door and nobody's home, and then he's bringing the package back to the packing central, that I could, you know, say, you know, just leave it by the door or whatever. But one thing that I talked to this with a colleague who has a different type of camera which actually does have a speakerphone, and he says in reality it's not that helpful, because the time delay does make it more or less impossible to have a meaningful conversation, you know, with a time delay of 20 to 40 seconds between you say something and that the person hears it, and vice versa with that. So, but again, it's a great camera, really. It is. The installation part, I'm still kind of, I I don't understand why Netatmo haven't made it easier to make an installation where the wire doesn't come directly from the wall, but runs across the wall or across the ceiling or whatever you want to do, because that surely that can't be the only case for me, that I don't have an existing wire running, or don't want to use the money of having an electrician running a wire directly into the wall. Also, where a lamp would be is usually not the same place where you would post a video camera, because usually, if possible, you would actually prefer to have the video camera sitting pretty high, and usually higher than a lamp outlet would be. So again, I understand why they've done this, to make it easier and don't have a power adapter, but yeah, perhaps they should consider having two versions. One with a power adapter where you could run the wire just across the wall, and one where where you get using an existing outlet, something like that. I can recommend this, as I said like a couple of times. I would again like to stress that I am very discontent with the Netatmo's customer support. It's way too slow, and again, people buying Netatmo products, I would guess they would be sort of in the same range as me, being fairly techy. And some of the questions they asked me in the customer support really indicated, I was a numbskull user who didn't know what he or she was doing, and that just wasted a lot of time, and if they had live chat support or something like that, we could have come to the conclusion that we ended up in which took 4 days by emails, in 10 minutes by chat. This camera is defective, shit happens, but that's a bad customer experience that I need to spend that much time, with email support trying to come to the conclusion, yes, I need a new camera. So I would hope that Netamo steps up on that part. One thing I promised for you guys to talk about is IF integration. So I tend to buy units that support IF, because it makes a lot of sense, to have that interact into the same ecosystem. But for this camera, it's not really that helpful. The triggers and the actions that this Presence camera support really doesn't do much helpful for me, because in my case, my recordings are uploaded to an FTP server. So, because some of the stuff you would be able to do is move the recordings around to other IF services like Google Drive or whatever, but I don't need that, because that's built directly into the software that it supports an FTP server, which is ideal for me. You can also out of the box integrate into Dropbox if you would like to go that way. So again, I could perhaps have my hue lights blink once a person comes by into the alert zone, but in reality that's more just playing around, but that's something that really makes sense in an everyday life. So the current triggers and actions really aren't doing much that is more than just for the fun of it, but not really something that's helpful. The one thing that would be helpful if a trigger was possible to actually to disable the monitoring temporarily. So this is an option you have in the app and also on my watch, to temporarily disable the monitoring of the camera. And just to explain why would you need that? Well, in my instance, the camera is covering my garage enough. If I'm cleaning my car or hoovering or something like that, I'm spending 20 minutes doing that, and in that time frame, I'm going in and out of the alert zones, which causes a lot of recordings and notifications to come by, which is of course annoying if you are someone getting these notifications all the time. So there it makes sense to turn the notifications on and off, but it would be easier for me if I could use one of my flick buttons, which you can Google, that's also supported by the IF ecosystem, just to have a button near my entrance or something like that, where I could enable or disable the monitoring where it would make sense, because again, I've set my camera to give me notifications, within the hours where we are usually awake, but and where we are usually again away from the house. But that changes during the weekend, and the camera doesn't support, to differentiate between normal days and weekends, because again in the weekend we get a lot of notifications, you know, because we are going in and out of the house, you know, a lot of times, and there, you know, it would be helpful if it was easier, you know, using buttons or something like that to enable or disable the monitoring of the camera. But that's just a small thing, and but again, it would be helpful. The thing as it is right now is not really something that I can see any real uses of. If you have a scenario where it makes help for you guys, write it in the comment, and I would be very interested in looking into that. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for me. Again, great camera. I highly recommend it, as long as you don't are as unlucky as I do and wind up having to use Netatmo support, then you are probably going to be frustrated. So have a great day, guys. Leave a comment and or like if this has been helpful. Also, you know, you're free to look at some of my other videos that I do with other stuff like this, with things that I bought. Again, I am not funded by anyone, so this is purely out of my own interest that I'm doing this. So yeah, have a good day. Bye, guys.